Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, folks, it is, what is today? Today is day one of the draft for you, isn't it, you lucky ducks? Again, stay tuned for any draft stream announcements from me. Day one is up in the air. Day two, we will do something. That is for sure. And then day three will depend on how day two goes. If we have a good time, then we'll rock it again. But in addition, we were gonna do it today because it's day one of the draft. But I think we'll save it for tomorrow because the Packers don't pick until tomorrow. You'll want to tune in tomorrow because Cullen is going to reveal his favorite players in this year's draft. For those that don't know, my son has a much better track record than I do when it comes to his players being players that the Packers also like. Not only like the top guys like Christian Watson and Matthew Golden being his favorite players getting drafted, but also guys like Bullard being among his top guys. Savion Williams, I think, was his third favorite wide receiver. So just there is a much stronger correlation. For me, it's the Bears, which is weird. I tell you my favorite guys, and there's a high hate rate with the Bears. It's really annoying. I think it just means Cullen's better at this than I am because Packers are a better team. But we're gonna plan on that for tomorrow. And as a final note, again, please consider subscribing to our draft guide. We'll be using it as we do the live stream. So I'll be able to maybe show you a little bit more of what I've been talking about this whole time, because it's harder to describe than it is to just kind of show people. But anywho, I wanted to start off today, and this is one of those things I was actually working on Sal. I was trying to figure out what the heck. I got like 2 more days of the draft. I don't know what to talk about with Sal. And I was looking at a bunch of stuff, and of course, as I look for things, I'm like, no, I want to take this. I want to, there have been a couple times where I've stayed away from a topic because I don't want it to be obvious who I'm talking about. But there have been some hot takes that I just genuinely disagree with. And again, I don't want to start some kind of a stupid, idiotic feud or whatever. It's not my style, but I think it's suffice it to say that he's not alone in this take. So we'll just say there is a general feel out there that I just, and it's been a back and forth, and even callers have called in with very different takes than I have on this, and it's wide receiver. And again, I'm not opposed to drafting wide receiver. I've said if they want to take Brazzell, who apparently is falling at this point, which makes it unlikely because I think he would fall beyond where the Packers are picking, maybe in the next round, I don't know. But if you want to take a guy like Brazzell, or Cullen has a guy that he really likes, okay, that's fine. But there was a specific take that I saw, and I thought, just on its face, it doesn't make sense. So I have to address it. And I will sort of rewrite the statement, not to misstate it, but again, to kind of maybe make it more general. Because again, I think this is let's just say 50% of the fan base. I have no idea, but 50% of the fan base roughly feels this way. There's a big question about wide receiver. I am of the opinion we have a very good wide receiver group and a long-term wide receiver group. And that's because I believe genuinely Christian Watson will get paid this year, meaning it's not going to be, we'll wait and see how this goes. It might not, it doesn't mean, by the way, it's a good decision. A lot of times people will come out and they'll be like, yeah, but it's stupid or whatever. That's not the point. I'm talking about what is. This happened the other day when I talked about Romeo Dobbs on social media, which is why I post less and less on social media, because it just turns into stupid fights of people not knowing what you're talking about and trying to sound smart and pissing me off. But A.J. Brown got picked up by the Patriots, which has been a long time thing. They've been trying to find another wide receiver, and it's been my contention. My contention has been poor Romeo Dobbs. And I kept getting a flood of people coming in saying, well, he's not a number one. He's not a number one. I know that. You know that. We all know that. He doesn't know that. That was my point. My point is this was his whole problem in Green Bay. He wanted to be the number one. He wanted opportunities to be the number one, and he wasn't getting those opportunities. He went to New England being the number one. In other words, if we didn't get A.J. Brown, he would have been the number one. And then they bring in A.J. Brown, and now he is definitively the number two. And so I just made a throwaway comment, poor guy. And everyone, he's not a number. It's not about what is. In other words, it's not about what's right, what's correct. It's just about what is in this situation. And in this situation for Romeo Dobbs, the guy wants something and then he didn't get it. It got taken away from him. And I just said, poor guy. And then the other comment was, well, he just got paid. He got paid as a number 2. He would like the opportunity to prove he could be a number 1 to eventually get that wide receiver 1 bag. Maybe, and maybe it's not a big deal because he got a big pile of money and he's like, nah, this is fine. I'm happy now. I got a decent chunk of money. And maybe he's just calmed down a little bit. But what, again, the point, everybody wants to, well, in reality, he's not, it doesn't matter. So I know if I went on social media and said, we're going to pay Watson, everybody would come out, a bunch of people would come out and say, he shouldn't get a paycheck. Why would you pay him? I didn't say I would pay him. I didn't say it's the right thing. I didn't say it's going to work out. What did I say? I said the Packers are going to pay him. Okay, I don't know that that's the case. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're going to whatever. But they've also saved up a big old pile of money that's just sitting there for some weird reason. Seems to me Tucker Kraft and Christian Watson are going to get paychecks, and it's more of a question of how much than if. Now, I think the more contentious point is about Jayden Reed. I have almost no reason to believe that Jayden Reed won't get paid. I don't know where this, I would love for people to elaborate on the questions surrounding Jayden Reed. I have a feeling it's just mainly fan anxiety. This happens all the time with every player, always, where it's just, well, how are we going to, where's the money going to come from? Where's the money? That's never, ever, 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 ever been an issue. Even in this really weird situation where guys are leaving when they usually don't, like Romeo, Dobbs, and Dontavian Wicks, do you think it's because we don't have the money to pay them? Of course we do. It's not about we don't have enough money. It's about we're not willing to pay that amount of money for a guy that is not going to be our number 2. He's not even going to be our number 3. He's probably going to be our number 4. That doesn't make sense. Same goes for Dontavian Wicks. What is his role? If Dobbs is number, 4, and Savion is number 5, that would make him number 6? I'm supposed to pay the number 6? Are you crazy? No. You don't pay a big contract, and by big, I mean like, let's say you don't even pay number 3 money to a number 6. That's stupid. Your number 6 is some UDFA that you're trying out. So it's a unique situation. It's a weird situation, largely based on just having way more people and way more talent than we're used to. That creates unique conditions. But it's not about, oh man, we just have no money. Where's the money? We're going to lose all the money. It's the same thing where it's like, we're not going to be able to pay Elton. We're not going to be able to pay Rashawn. We're going to have to cut. Every year, it's the same thing. And you know what? We always pay them. Because what I've always said is if we want them, we will pay them. And just to clarify that, because I know some people, oh, you're saying we didn't want Romeo? They said they wanted Romeo. Let me be very clear. Do we want Romeo at number 2 prices to be a number 4? That's what I mean by want. I mean, we wanted him as long as he was on that contract he was on. Price is always a variable when we're talking about want. But that is more to do with your fit. For example, we always hem and haw about the top guys. Well, they're going to get such a big, it's not about the big contracts. It's not about we can't pay Micah Parsons or Rashawn Gary or Jordan Love. Those guys are always going to get paid. The problem comes in when a number 4 guy is too good. We can pay Rasheed Walker. That's not a problem. The problem is we have a guy right now that's on a rookie contract who is a first-round draft pick who's better than him, and Rasheed didn't even play that well. So we said goodbye. It's not about we can't afford him. It has nothing to do with that. So again, when I come back to Jayden Reed, what are the scenarios in which we don't pay him? The only thing I could really think is that he explodes to such a shocking level, which interestingly enough, I don't think too many people are afraid of this. I think he's probably more undervalued with the fan base than overvalued. But what are the scenarios where he doesn't get paid? In the scenario that I laid out is that he would be so shockingly good that somebody out there would say that is our number 1 wide receiver, would offer him $30 some odd million a year, and we'd say we can't compete with that. The odds of that happening are basically 0. I like Jayden Reed. He's a very good receiver. But first of all, in this wide receiver room, the odds that anybody gets wide receiver number 1 numbers are relatively low. And if anybody does, it's probably Golden. Beyond that, he's already proven he can't be a number 1. He's a great complementary piece. He's not a number 1. So he's going to get a paycheck. It's going to be a decently sized paycheck. It's not going to be a massive paycheck. And the fact of the matter is, first of all, look at the Bengals and how they actually paid 2 number ones. We're never going to be in that situation because Watson isn't going to get that kind of money based on his situation, and Reed is not going to get anywhere near what the number 2 guy got, and Golden is going to be on a rookie contract. I just don't see the scenario. And the other scenario is what? He's so bad we decide we don't want him? I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's so unbelievably unlikely because he's already proven his worth. The idea of like, well, maybe he's a bust is gone. That's dead. He's a second-round pick that has produced like a very good second-round pick. Why would we get rid of him? It makes no sense to me. And to have the conversation of we don't know if either of these receivers are going to be a solution in the future, therefore we need a wide receiver. What? You think actually both of them are going to be gone? And if you don't think both, then you think maybe just one, which is shockingly unlikely in my mind. And then how much of a massive need is it if you're saying that we're going to have 2 main guys? You're saying it's how big of a priority compared to other positions? Is it higher than defensive tackle, higher than corner, which is an immediate need and a long-term need? I don't think so. For a number 3 receiver? In what world is that? You can find a slot receiver later on. How many years do we have just a number 1? Now we have a 1 and 2? Then you're saying there's some kind of a crisis? So I keep seeing it, but I don't really fully understand it. But let me let's take a break because this may take a little bit of a while. We'll take a semi-early break, come back, get to the specific claim, and then dig in a little bit further, and then we'll move on. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. So the specific claim is largely tied to the future, right? Okay, maybe we're fine now, but in 2 or 3 years or whatever, you may have a vacancy here. And certainly you could say that. I mean, maybe in 3 years, Christian Watson, even if we pay him, what if he's just an injury liability and that doesn't get fixed and he's just not the answer? You know, there are scenarios that you can come up with in which this doesn't pan out. Maybe we don't keep Reed and then Watson is whatever, and Golden doesn't become this, that, or the other, in which case we are actually in a bit of trouble. And that's fair, and that's true. And if we only look at that situation and don't lift our head up from that very specific and you know, kind of low probability scenario, then yes, I think we must invest in a wide receiver on day 2. That was the claim, by the way, in this particular post, based on the fact that we lost Dobbs and Wicks, and we have an uncertain future with Watson and Reed. They almost have to take a receiver on day 2. By the way, day 2, so we're clear, is our second and third round pick, which is only 2 picks. Okay? Keep that in mind. So let's think through this for a second. Because again, you can make that make sense if you just only think about the wide receiver situation. Okay, let me ask you a question. How confident are you in our cornerback group in 2028? I'm guessing 0 people said they feel good about it. And if you do feel good about it, here's a problem that I would like to pose to you. Number 1, I don't know that we have anybody, even if you're a Valentine fan, which I am, that is a genuinely good corner outside of him. Bigger issue, 0 corners under contract in 2028. How about defensive tackle? Let's just skip to the end where we don't even worry about how much we like the guys, this, that, or the other. How many defensive tackles are under contract in 2028? Warren Brinson. That's it. So just based on that, doesn't that mean we must invest in corner? Doesn't that mean we must invest in defensive tackle? We only have 2 picks. How are we going to make that work? I got another issue. How about edge? We don't exactly know what's going to happen with Van Ness. He hasn't even gotten his 5th-year option thing. He may not even be on this team anymore. Who knows? So the only edge rushers we have are Micah Parsons and Barron Sorrell. Now, Micah Parsons is great, but that certainly doesn't seem like, and Colin Oliver, certainly doesn't seem like a very well-rounded edge group. I mean, it sounds like we have 1 edge rusher, and then I don't know. That doesn't sound very good. So I feel like we need to invest in edge on day 2. How about linebacker? 0 linebackers under contract in 2 years. 0 safeties. I think McKinney technically has something, but I think it's just a void year, so he's not under contract. 0 safeties under contract in 2 years. No linebackers, no safeties, no corners, not enough edge rushers, not enough defensive tackles. Basically, our entire defense has to be picked on day 2 because the future is uncertain. In 2 years, Jordan Morgan is not under contract. So I think tackle becomes a massive consideration. How about running back? You know how many running backs we have under contract? 0. How do you not invest in a running back? How about tight end? You know how many tight ends we have? 0. Sounds like we need a tight end. I mean, if we play this game where technically we don't know, we have to invest in almost every single position. In fact, wide receiver is one of our best positions with Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. Those are our only 2 wide receivers, but compared to other positions, that's one of our strongest outside of maybe quarterback or interior offensive line with Banks, Belton, and Sean Ryan still all under contract. Not that we are necessarily thrilled with that situation, but at least it's there. This is also part of the problem I have with people saying, oh, we just can't sign anybody. We can't sign anybody, as though we just have this massive team. Do you understand if you look into the future, we have nobody? We are in a mad dash to try to fill all these spots in the future. Of course we're going to sign. If we don't sign these people, we don't have a football team. You think we're going to draft all these positions? We can't draft these positions. We literally have 13 people signed in 2028. 13. And you think we're going to let Watson and Reed just walk? Why? So we can fill it in the draft and then not fill all these other positions that we need? We have to sign these people. If we only look at this year, then it's, oh, we have so many people. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, but everything's temporary. This is also why, by the way, this is probably the greatest illustration of why you can't build through free agency. Every team looks like this. Go out just 2 years from now. Nobody has a football team anymore. Can you imagine if you said you wanted to build through free agency? Okay, so you have, 13 spots, right? So 53 total, minus 13 is 40. Go out in free agency and pay 40 people. You know how expensive free agency is? 40 people? This is why you need to hit in the late rounds. This is why you need to hit an undrafted free agency. This is why, by the way, when I keep telling you, you can't have a perfect team that just doesn't have any deficiencies. This is why. How are you going to build a team? You have to build it with guys that are just okay. You can't afford 53 studs. Nobody can. But when you get guys, you sign them because you're going to need them. There's not enough draft picks in the world to fill all these spots. In the next 2 years, we have 11 plus 8. We have 19 draft picks. And assuming every single one of them makes it, that puts us at 32. Let's just call it 40. Let's say 8 UDFAs make the 53, which is ridiculous, but let's just say that that's the case. There's 13 spots left open, which means in the next 2 years, we have to sign at least 13 people to contracts. Which 13? I want you to list off 13 guys we're going to pay, and don't put Watson and Reed in that list. The hell are we doing here? And by the way, some of these guys probably aren't going to be of the 13. I don't know that all these guys are going to be here. I don't know that Sean Ryan is here in 2028. I don't know that Aaron Banks is here. I don't know that, Colin Oliver's on his rookie deal, but how many of these rookies are long-term solutions? That's just assume. You can count them on your 53, but we might be looking at getting rid of half of these guys because they're no good. So yeah, we're going to have to sign and sign and sign and sign and sign. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people. So, number one, I don't understand why we're not signing Christian Watson. I don't understand why we're not signing Jaden Reed. I have no idea why we're doing that. And number two, this idea that, in the future, it's uncertain. Every single position is uncertain in the future. This is the foundation of drafting best player available. The idea that, yes, today's needs are not necessarily 2 years from now's needs. 2 years from now, everything is a need. So just take good players. As long as we have good players, regardless of what position they're at, get the blue chippers wherever you can find them, and then we're going to have to backfill a ton of positions anyways. The majority of this roster is going to be trying to stitch together talent wherever we can. Don't pass on an opportunity to get a legitimately awesome player. And yeah, that does include wide receiver. But I'm saying to say that wide receiver, when you have 2 picks to look at it in any context, and say one of those 2 has to be receiver, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. How in the world is it more urgent than corner? With the likelihood that in 2028 we're going to have Golden and Savion and Watson and Reed at a minimum, while you can go through all the other positions and say, I have no idea. Like at safety, for example, Evan Williams will be re-signed. McKinney, I don't know. I don't know if McKinney's here in 2 years. I can't promise you that. He'll be 29. Hopefully he's still good. Hopefully he still gets some kind of a short-term contract. But I don't know. I mean, I think you can make this exact case for safety much more than you could for wide receiver. In 2 years, we might be looking down, and again, I like Evan Williams, but he's going to have somebody next to him. In the next 2 years, I think it's very likely we're going to need to invest in safety. Maybe Oladapo can play, I don't really know. Maybe Bullard moves back to safety, I don't know. But I think it's a stronger case than wide receiver. I think edge rusher is a significantly stronger case, with Micah Parsons coming off an injury. In 2 years from now, he's going to be 29, and we don't know exactly where he's going to be at with that. By the way, he has a $42 million cap hit that year, so we're probably getting into that range of either moving on or giving him some kind of an extension, meaning we may be moving on from him in 2 years. We have no idea what's going on with Lucas Van Ness, and we have nobody behind them that's worth anything, that's proven anything up to this point. I think edge rusher is a much more legitimate concern at this point. Defensive tackle, again, almost every position on this entire team is a bigger question in 2 years than wide receiver. I think the only position I would say is more solidified in 2 years is quarterback. That's it. That's the entire list is quarterback. 30-year-old Jordan Love is not going anywhere. His cap hit is $74 million. We're not going to be paying that. He'll be getting either another contract extension or something at that point in time when he hits 30. And he'll be our quarterback, pending some kind of an injury, but you can do the injury thing for anybody. Leaving injuries aside, because that applies evenly everywhere. Well, not exactly evenly, but for the sake of argument, let's say it's pretty even. Quarterback is the most secure long-term position. Wide receiver, I think, is the second most. Now, again, if you want to play the game of we might not pay Christian and Jaden, okay, fine, but it's still probably the second most secure with Matthew Golden and Savion Williams under contract. Even if Savion is I don't even know if he's a number 2. Okay, fine. What other position's more secure? Maybe edge and interior offensive line. Okay, so it's the third or fourth most secure position. Even if we don't sign Watson and Reed. So to say it is a top 2 priority long term, I don't know what you're talking about. Because again, remember, we only have 2 picks on day 2. So if we have to take a wide receiver day 2, it is one of the biggest long-term needs we have. In what world? I just, and again, it's because it just keeps coming up and keeps coming up and I don't understand, other than this constant obsession with wide receiver. It is, from a fan perspective, the most, that and quarterback, but we don't usually worry about quarterback as Packer fans. So for us, it's wide receiver. It is the most obsessive position. And either you have unless you have a perfectly elite, fully settled wide receiver room, it's always a massive need. That's the only thing I can think for why we're even doing this. It's because offensive line and defensive line and linebacker and safety are boring. Edge is not boring, but we got Micah, and I don't really want to talk about it anymore. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know why we're playing this game, but I don't know why we're doing this. And I will say this for the 900th time, because I know I will say things 100,000 times and I'll still have people reach out and have not heard it at some point. So let me say it very clearly and very definitively. The Packers need to take talent wherever they can find it. And if in the second round, the best player that is there is wide receiver, in no way would I tell Gutekunst not to draft that person. Also, if they draft a receiver in the first 2 days, that does not mean that everybody was right about it. It just means that they took the best player that happened to be a wide receiver. That's it. And I would encourage them to do so, whether as wide receiver or running back or linebacker or whatever. Anywho, all right, here's what we're going to do. And I've decided, because I've got a little side project I want to work on, I'm having fun with, as far as the stream that will happen. So I'm gonna take it easy on some of the other ones. So that's why you didn't get the Sal today and all that. We're already past that point, and I'm just not gonna do it. We might do the music one, whatever, doesn't matter. We'll take a break here. Couple things I want to touch on. Some different prospects. We got some insight on who that secret, quote unquote, secret for like 48 hours quarterback was. And then another thing I wanted to talk about right quick, and that's what we'll do. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, so the quote-unquote secret quarterback, I was wrong, it wasn't Nussmeier. It was Virginia Tech quarterback Chiron Drones. So, very, very weird situation. Again, I don't know why it happened, but the thought process that I had was that if it stays a secret, it might be more legit. If we find out, especially very quickly after, then it might be gamesmanship. The fact that a beat writer, I don't remember if it was Huber or not. I thought it was Silverstein, but it may have been Huber. I don't know. That basically came out and said, there's a quarterback, but we don't know who it is, and we were told not to tell you or whatever. 2 days later, not only do we know who it is, but Bill Huber has a whole write-up on this guy. In other words, he was handed the information on a silver platter. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Maybe he found out and decided to go against the team who said, please don't report this, and he's blasting a whole article about this guy. I would lean toward gamesmanship here, where it's like, oh, this is a secret, don't tell anybody, and then 2 days later, Bill Huber comes out with a massive article about a high upside dual threat quarterback had a 30 visit with the Packers. If the team doesn't want the media to report it and the media honored that, why 2 days later are they okay with it? You know what I mean? Like, again, it doesn't have to be this. I'm trying to figure this thing out. It could be something else that, again, I just can't, figure out at this point in time. But it's a very odd situation that, again, at this point in time, I would lean toward gamesmanship. However, we should still talk about him because he is a high upside dual threat quarterback. I'll start off by mentioning, yes, this his full scouting report will be in the draft guide. Just updated it right this second. He's at 491 on the consensus board, but, I can do whatever I want, so it's in there. 4-star guy out of high school, which I think is always one of the common threads. A lot of guys that don't... Let's go the reverse. A lot of 4 or 5-star guys end up going a little bit higher. Meaning, a lot of the guys later on are not necessarily those guys. It's interesting that a lot of the guys that we're seeing the Packers meet with that are big-time UDFAs happen to be 4- and 5-star recruits. Probably there's a portion of what happened, because this guy coming out of high school showed unbelievable promise. And if we can find something that explains away in some kind of a way why it didn't maybe go spectacularly or whatever the case may be, depending on what the specific concerns are, maybe we've got a diamond in the rough here. But he prepped at Shadow Creek High School under Brad Butler, exploded onto the scene junior year with a 3,390 passing yard, 46 touchdown season with 825 rushing yards and 18 rushing touchdowns while leading the Sharks to the 2019 UIL 5A Division I state championship. And that was as a junior. He was rated coming out of high school 4-star by ESPN, number 60 in Texas, number 10 dual threat quarterback. 24/7 Sports had him number 20 in Texas, number 7 dual threat quarterback. After limited action and a redshirt year at Baylor in 21 and 22, Drones arrived in Blacksburg and started 11 of 13 games in 2023, posting 2,085 yards, 17 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions, and a monstrous 818 rushing yards with 5 rushing scores. He earned honorable mention All ACC honors, set Virginia Tech and Military Bowl records with 176 rushing yards in the bowl win over Tulane, was named Military Bowl MVP. We'll get into the injury stuff in a little bit, but that's a little bit of an overview of his track record. Let's pull up PFF here real quick before we move on. So the 1 year at Baylor, he didn't really play. 3 years at Virginia Tech. His overall grades were 76, 80, and 70, which is all fine. The passing grades were 65, 73, and 61, which is definitely a little bit more but his rushing grades were 81, 73, 75. So he's a dual threat guy that leans a little bit rushing as opposed to passing. And he is 6'2", 235, so he's a relatively big quarterback. He doesn't have elite speed. He runs I think he just ran at his pro day, nothing official or laser timed, but I think it was in the 4.6s. Not that that means everything, but just so we're clear, this is not like a 4.3 or even a 4.4 guy. He did do really well at Virginia Tech Pro Day, uncorked several crazy throws, quote unquote, that reminded scouts of the live arm that made him a 4-star recruit. So that's another thing that I notice a lot of. It's either a pro day or the East-West or something where it's like he really burst onto the scene. And that probably is one of the things where you have an amazing pro day and they think, let's get another look at this guy. Let's bring him in. Because remember, the arm is probably a little bit more of the question mark here. Going through strengths and weaknesses, strengths, elite size and power as a runner, live arm with zip and touch, compact release and pocket presence, big play creator in critical moments, improved decision-making under pressure. Weaknesses, inconsistent accuracy and ball placement, processing in pre-snap reads, durability red flags, we'll get into that, and reliance on play action and designed runs. He's projected as a priority UDFA with legitimate camp-to-roster upside and developmental starter potential in the right system. Would be a pretty solid practice squad quarterback, if nothing else. Now, injury history. Significant lower body injury cluster in 2024. Foot, MCL, stress fracture, turf toe. All that stuff. Caused him to miss the final 4 games and linger into spring 2025. Required a medical procedure. Fully healthy and started all 12 games in 2025 with no reported setbacks. Durability is one of the primary red flags that teams must medically clear. The other fun part, primary comp, Jalen Hurts. Secondary comp, Malik Willis. Explosive athlete with a cannon who flashes game-changing plays but has struggled with consistency and processing. Both profiles scream high upside developmental prospect. So it's easy to see why, if you're trying to maybe identify a guy that could be a little bit Malik, where if you just try to throw him into an NFL offense, he's probably going to fail. But if you put him with a guy like Matt LaFleur, who knows how to design an offense around a guy with these kinds of strengths and weaknesses, especially with a little bit of tweaking and tuning, which he is also fantastic at it, fixing the footwork and the arm and all those kinds of things, there might be something here, especially if he can sit and learn as like a QB3 for a couple years. While in the meantime, being your practice squad quarterback that you can have run, as your mobile quarterback when you need that, you're preparing against that kind of a thing. Even against a guy like Caleb, who, doesn't have elite speed, but he's got fantastic escapability and all that kind of stuff, would be a great guy to practice against. So, I was going to do something else, but I think I'll save it for tomorrow. I think we'll just call it here. Again, I'll check on, do we have any calls? We only had one yesterday, so that's why we didn't do Packernet After Dark. Oh, we do it. We have 9, so we'll do Packernet After Dark. But anywho, get your calls in, and if you want. Actually, tomorrow night, we're getting close to get your calls in at your own risk territory. Day 1, there's probably not going to be a ton that's going to be breaking news, so it should be fine. But for example, tomorrow, feel free to get your calls in, but ideally, let's wait until after the Packers make their pick, because if you call in prior to, hey, it's day 2 of the draft, and I hope the Packers pick this, I don't know if, especially if there's 40 calls, if we need to do that call and then not get to the calls of here's what the Packers did and here are my thoughts. Just saying. Okie doke. I'm going to leave it at that. I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.